we actually, we battled 3 years of infertility. We decided that we were ready to we were going to start trying to have a family probably 2008, 2009. And we ended up getting pregnant right away, but we lost the baby at 6 weeks. It was a really, really difficult time. When Phil and I first got married, I went to work for Babies R Us, Toys R Us Corporation. So started out, kind of ground floor when I first got out of college and worked my way up. And so we ended up moving from Kansas City to New Jersey. I mean, culture shock, sticker shock, like everything. You go from Midwest lifestyle to like fast-paced East Coast. It was crazy. We lived literally like 30 miles from downtown New York City, and so it was a really big jump. I wanted that. I wanted that career. I wanted that corporate job, and then the market crashed, and they ended up laying off like my entire department. We had just found out we were pregnant with our third, and so I thought, okay, this is like God's timing, because this gives me a chance to focus on being pregnant, focus on being a mom. This is going to be great. Like, I will just take care of myself. We decided we were going to move back to Kansas City from New Jersey because my husband's company was still there. And so it turned out right before we moved back to Kansas City is when I lost the baby. So we were 13 weeks pregnant, and for me, I thought, okay, maybe it wasn't so much about this is me, taking time out to be a mom, but maybe it's more about this was meant to be, because it would be really painful for me to be working in a place where my sole job is to, get moms in the door registering, creating baby registries for a baby retailer. It was probably the darkest time of my life. I mean, you hear people talking about like rock bottom, and for me, it felt like I was at the bottom of a well looking up and just like waiting to see like when I was going to be able to climb out of this situation. Because at that point we wanted kids so badly, and we'd already had 3 losses, and we just didn't know when it was going to end from there. And our doctor had recommended that we start really like looking into genetic testing and having some further, just a little bit more invasive testing done, because she said, 1, 2, but here you are 3 in, and there's obviously something wrong. So we started that process of, trying to really figure out what was going on. And I spent a few months just kind of going through that process and getting us reacclimated, and it was okay that I didn't have a job at the time. Like when we had moved back, I was able to, we were okay on one income coming back to the Midwest, which is kind of why we left New Jersey. We could have stayed, but Phil's company was in Kansas City, and the cost of living is so much better, and we liked Kansas City before, a little bit closer to family, and we said, okay, we can do that on one income. We've been back for about 6 months, and a retail marketing job with Barnes & Noble like landed in my lap. An old coworker had contacted me, and she's like, I know you're back in town. Are you looking for a job? And I was like, yes, I am. And at that point, I was focused on finding something. I wanted to do something that, that served, or fulfilled a passion, but at the same time, I knew that we were focused on trying to have a family. We've been having problems, so, I wasn't looking for a career, at that point. Like, I just wanted to find something so I could go back to work and, kind of keep moving forward in life. Yeah. So that job fell into my lap, and I will never forget when I started exploring the benefits package, because at that point we had already met with a genetic counselor, and they said to me, IVF with genetic testing would be a really good option for you guys. Like, you can have kids, but it's just going to be a little bit harder to have a healthy pregnancy, and so this would be a good option for you. Well, anybody who's ever looked into IVF or any type of fertility treatment, it's very expensive. I mean, we were looking at $20,000 to $30,000 in medical expenses, and when you spend that, there's no guarantee of kids. So I was looking through the benefits package as I was getting ready to accept my offer with Barnes & Noble. And in there was a little blurb about fertility treatment coverage. So I thought, okay, this is meant to be. It was a pay cut, but it was still in my career field, and I thought, this is gonna be fun, and the insurance provided could potentially help cover the cost of treatment. We ended up with 15 embryos. 12 made it to what they referred to as day 3 at the time, and they were able to biopsy all 12 of those embryos and send them off to the lab to be tested. Out of the 15 that we had, only 3 of them were genetically viable. So once the doctor, I will never forget that, the doctor called us in on day 5 to tell us the results. They call you into the office and go over the report with you. And I remember just being so relieved, finally, after 3 years, I still get emotional talking about it. It was all finally coming together, because I thought, he's telling me that there's 3. So if we transfer 2 of them, at least they offer you the option to transfer 1 or 2. Because turns out the multiple birth rate is actually really high. And so I thought, okay, if we transfer 2, then we'll have at least 1. We will come out of this with at least 1 baby. And if this fails, then we have 1 more to work with. So we transferred 2, and I ended up with some health complications just a few weeks in, and ended up in the ER, and they did blood testing on me, and it was in that moment where they're treating me for some health complications that I found out I was pregnant. So a few weeks later, we found out we were having twins. We ended up carrying the babies to term, almost 37 and a half weeks. Ultimately, that's why I do what I do, because when we found out we were having twins, and after everything we had been through, I knew that I wanted to be home with them. My passion for work had changed, and I was very excited to be home and to experience every aspect of being a mom to these babies. That first year was hard because you have 2 babies, so you are your life revolves around their eating, feeding, nap schedule, whatever. So it was hard to get out of the house, but by the time they were about 11 months old, I had started trying to dabble back in my career. I decided if I could do something from home and still make some extra money, I could flex my professional muscles and kind of have that side of me fulfilled. And it would give me some adult interaction because I spent my day around babies. So I started trying to figure out a way I could do something for myself and not have to make the decision to go back to a corporate office. I didn't want that. I wanted to be around my kids. So I didn't want to make a decision that was going to cause me to have to give up time with them. Right. The key is to find something that, first of all, you can become passionate about, that fits around your life. So ultimately, you have to hold that in perspective always. So for me, it's about my kids. It's about making memories with them and spending time, giving them and just having every opportunity to experience life with them. And, so having that in perspective, your reason for wanting to do something, and then finding the opportunity that is going to help you fulfill that. Also understanding that it takes time. It is something you have to commit to. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It means sacrificing Netflix and, binge watching on your favorite TV shows. And, it might mean giving up, instead of sleeping during the kids' nap time, it might mean you have to work your business. But ultimately, if you are willing to sacrifice and find, you have the right opportunity and you're willing to sacrifice some of that time, it can be so rewarding. I have been able to be a room parent for my kids. They're going to kindergarten in the fall, and I'm just I'm excited to be able to volunteer and do stuff with them at school. if I was working full time in my corporate job, I would miss out on all of that. So, I think it's finding the opportunity, being willing to sacrifice the time, and being in it for the long haul. I've been able to do exactly what I wanted to do with my family, being able to stay home. And so, rather than being faced with having to make the change to go back to a corporate office, because at some point, I knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I think back in my husband's head, he's thinking, well, she'll go back to work at some point. This is preventing me from ever having to do that.